This morning, millions of Americans are waking up and logging into work from home. Twitter announced this week that it's allowing employees to work from home forever. As the New York Times lays it out, quote, driven by safety or financial considerations or both, many companies, big and small, are rethinking the future of work. Joining me now is Seth Harris. He's the former acting labor secretary under President Obama. Seth, it's great to have you with us. There are really two separate issues here. How can we go back to work safely now? And what does work look like after this and forever? What do you make of this suggestion that maybe when this is all over, going to the office, a physical office, might just go away?
Well, I think it's very likely that we're going to see more remote work in the future. We've actually, during this crisis, doubled the number of people who have worked from home at least once. And the number of employers who are offering remote work has increased very dramatically. But we've also found some limitations in remote work that I think are going to influence employers' behavior. It used to be they didn't want to allow remote work because they didn't feel they could successfully supervise people who were at home. They weren't sure that remote work involved work. But I think they've overcome that barrier now, but they worry about some of the non-meeting interventions or interactions that are very important in the workplace. The hallway conversation, walking into a colleague's office and having a conversation. So I think that is going to cause them to still have people come into the office, but I think it's more likely that we see hybrid schedules where people work from home 1 or 2 days a week, maybe more, and then they come into the office for common days where everybody can be around and interact with one another.
You know, there's a quote from the CEO of Morgan Stanley, James Gorman, who said, quote, we've proven we can operate with no footprint. Can I see a future where part of every week, certainly part of every month, a lot of our employees will be at home? Absolutely. Look, my experience in America, a capitalist nation, is that if companies think they can save money by doing something, they're going to do it. So what are the savings that might be had for companies?
Well, the savings are substantial. If you think about real estate in New York City, my hometown, that's pretty expensive per square foot. So if companies are able to downsize, that's going to solve two problems. One is a cost problem. The other is the return to work problem after this pandemic. In order to continue social distancing in the workplace, it's going to be a lot easier for employers if they can have fewer employees around, right? You can social distance more easily with 50 employees than with 100 or 200 employees. So that's why these hybrid schedules, I think, are more likely. But I think that folks are not going to give up their offices in the prestige city locations that they've got right now, like New York City. I think the financial services sector is still going to have a footprint, some footprint in those prestige locations. It's a way to attract talented employees. It's important to their image. It's important to the way they do business with other companies in the city. So I think they will remain. We went through this discussion, by the way, after 9/11, and folks talked about leaving and then they didn't. But I think that downsizing is entirely possible, and a new way of work, I think, is highly likely.
You're absolutely right. We did go through a very similar discussion after September 11th. I distinctly remember people wondering, would New York City never reopen? Would these offices move out to the suburbs? This is a little different, though, in that they're not suggesting the offices move out to the suburbs. They're just suggesting they disappear completely. And one of the ways that New York, of course, and other cities got these offices to say was with huge tax incentives. I'm not sure that that's an option this time. I mean, these cities could really suffer if some of these companies leave.
No, that's exactly right. I think that there is some risk to urban centers. But again, after 9/11, when they talked about moving out of town or even reducing their footprint, what happened was cities became more important in our national economic life, not less important. You know, there are limits to remote work, and I think we're all experiencing this right now. There's a very important social component to the workplace. You know, it's a place not only where we spend a lot of time, but where we make a lot of friends. Some of us meet our romantic relationships in the workplace, hopefully consistent with workplace rules. It's also how we interact with one another, learn things. It's a big part of our working day. Working from home is a more isolating experience. It's a less engaging experience. So I think employers are going to think twice before they go to zero footprint, but I think downsizing is likely.
Look, Allison won't talk to me in the hallways anyway, even when the office is open, so I'm not sure there's much of a difference for me. I do want to ask about small businesses because the National Restaurant Association put out a study which showed that 100,000 small businesses they're expecting to close permanently, and that may be on the low end here. How close are we, do you see, us being to a cliff right now in terms of these small businesses maybe never coming back?
Right. Well, I don't think we've gone off the cliff yet, John, but I think we can see it from here. That number, 100,000 businesses closing for good, is going to continue to rise along with our infection rate and our fatality rate. That is because, small businesses largely operate like families, paycheck to paycheck. They don't have large reserves of capital. So they've now gone 2 months without revenue, some of them, and they just are not going to be able to survive that. Some will. About 4.2 million businesses got Paycheck Protection Program loans. They will likely be able to survive, or some got commercial loans. Some had a reserve of money. Some were able to adjust their business model. Think of a sit-down restaurant that became a takeout restaurant. But a very large number of small businesses in our country are at risk now, and that is going to be the difference between a very long, painful recovery and a quick recovery, whether or not those businesses survive.
Seth Harris, it's always great to have you on. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, John.